What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the opinionated hippie. Continuing my deep dive into the Bob Dylan and the band's 1974 live recordings. We're on today only one show, disc number 8, mainly because it is a Boston show and it is the only show from Boston that was released. Assuming there were at least 2, as this is the afternoon show. From Boston, January 14th, 1974. I'm going to talk about this one and then compare it to the other 7 that I've listened to so far. So putting a little dent in this 27-disc box set. Going into this, I was probably the least excited about this on just a very surface level, only because there was nothing new introduced. Every song in this set list has already appeared in the box set. So I've heard, versions, and in many cases, they've been around a while, right? So we're starting to see this sort of, over the course of the first 7 shows, this sort of calcification of what the set list would be. And so there was that, but then almost immediately in the very first opening number, Rainy Day Women, there is a definitive vibe to at least the first portion of this show. The shows are generally this 9-song electric set, an acoustic set that varies in length depending on the night by 1 or 2 songs, and then a 4-song encore set. And the electric set in this is just absolutely fantastic, and it's a vibe that's established almost immediately in the opening Rainy Day Women. And I have this sort of theory or this vision, or just I imagine that prior to each of these shows, Dylan would come up with a word, an adverb, a verb, an emotion, anything. And he would have that word just always there in his mind as he's singing and performing these songs that he's literally sang and performed for the entirety of this tour so far. Not dramatically reworking the arrangements, not dramatically changing the tempos too much, but just having this sort of anger, resignation, joy, just some sort of something forefront that he could channel the lyrics through, that I'm convinced now after listening to this that the band can channel their playing through. And for me, the word for this show is bounce. There is so much bounce, especially in the first electric part of this. It's just, it feels like a really upbeat, it was January in Boston, so it's supposedly, supposed to be freezing cold in the dead of winter, or at least 2 weeks in winter, 3 weeks in winter. But it almost seems like they showed up at the venue, where is this? Boston Gardens on that day, and it was sunny. Air was brisk. Everybody was in good spirits. Bob it's hey, let's bounce. And the first 9 songs, just bounce. Rainy Day Women, piano, amazing. There's bounce. Lay Lady Lay, Robbie Robertson's energy is upbeat, positive. There's a bounce to this song. Just like Tom Thumb's Blues, the intro energy is great. This one almost feels upbeat and positive, and almost has this New Orleans atmospheric party vibe. It's not menacing or too surreal. It's just almost joyful. It Ain't Me, Babe also starts with more bounce and almost becomes jaunty as the verses go on. Probably for me, one of the more nondescript songs of the tour so far, but this version, it bounces. I'm gonna say that word a lot more. What else we got? I Don't Believe You, She Acts Like We Never Met. A lot of bounce in that. Ballad of a Thin Man. This is almost as if Jim Croce were singing the same lyrics, and the menace and the sort of that kind of edge that the earlier tour versions have been transformed into this piano playing singer-songwriter version of it that a 5-year-old kid would sing along to. I mean, it works, but it's just a different vibe to Ballad of a Thin Man. All Along the Watchtower, Robertson's just hitting it hard. And then we get to the one that really is kind of weird, and it's Ballad of Hollis Brown, because this is a dark dark song. People get killed. And yet this version has bounce. It's a little less ferocious, much less ferocious than the other versions, maybe even a little restrained, but the energy and sort of the positivity of the first part of this set, it just infects its way. It gets into this song, and it just, for a song that's dark as this is, if you weren't listening to the music, to the words, you might think it's like a feel-good song because there is this weird bounce to it. Whole different vibe. Really interesting. And then probably for me, the most interesting part of this is the last song in all of these electric sets so far has been Knocking on Heaven's Door. And prior to listening to this, I would have argued that that should never be played live. The original studio version, perfection. But I've changed my tune on that just because all of these live tunes have been really good. But this one feels like it's wrapping up the energy of the electric set, and it really does feel like a set ending song, like I'm seeing the Dead, and this is closing out the first set and just leaving me with like the best vibes. Yeah, it's Knocking on Heaven's Door, but that bounce is still in there, and that positivity, and that just, I don't know. I think this is an absolutely amazing, amazing first part of this show. It doesn't get bad after this, but I do think there's a drop. The acoustic stuff almost seems like Bob comes out and says, I'm going to play this as straight as can be. I want the words to be the focus of attention. I'm not going to do anything too dramatic vocally. A harmonica solo, there will be bounce in there because I just can't resist the urge to do that. But the lyrics themselves, I'm going to play it as straight as possible. The times they are changing. Don't think twice. Gates of Eden. Just like a woman, which almost seems like it's slower, almost like purposefully slowed down. And then It's All Right, Mom, Only Bleeding, which also doesn't feel like it's slowed down, but it does feel like it's just a little more, Bob's just trying to get the words out and do not much else more. And it attests to the quality of the songs, but it's a weird shift after the bounce of the first part. But none of it's bad. And then, also the Gates of Eden. That was the other one that feels just a little more somber, like Bob's still trying to like downplay the bounce or let some air out of the balloon a little bit just to like bring things down. So that was interesting. And then the last four songs, Forever Young starts off pretty straightforward, and it seems like Bob's trying to deliver a pretty straightforward vocal. But when the band comes in, particularly the piano, the bounce just kind of comes back. There's almost a tension between what Bob's doing vocally and what the rest of the band is still wanting to do musically. They just sat out that whole acoustic set, right? So they're coming back after a while. Bob's been singing and been getting into this sort of different vibe. Something There Is About You almost sounds like it's just Bob's. There's a little bit of bounce in there, but that tension is still kind of there. And then we get to Like a Rolling Stone. Piano takes over. The energy is fantastic. The band is really, really locking in together in a really cool way. And it takes on this almost like rolling, just get out of the way of the song type energy. And then we close out with a fantastic, Most Likely You Go Your Way and I'll Go Mine. Just full of energy, just really, really strong. A really, really interesting show. There are sound issues, especially in the latter half of the show. There's seems like there's mic issues. There's some unnecessary hiss that isn't present on the other shows and the acoustic thing. So the sound is probably out of the 8 so far the worst. No way bad, but just in comparison to what I've already listened to, this was the first time where I was like, oh, okay, there are sound issues. So it's the first time I've actually made a note of it. So that's something. And really the only song, other than the weirdness of Hollis Brown, the only song that I really think was maybe one of those that could be flagged, should stand out, is the Just Like Tom Thumb's Blues, because it really just has an energy that is not present in the other Tom Thumb's Blues, I would say so far. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the Lone Boston show from the box set. And this is what this thing looks like as I switch to, this is where I would rank it. I have it at number 5. Those 2 Chicago shows, there's a rawness to those that's just lost by now. Maybe it will return if there's new songs introduced that they haven't really run through, but those shows have a definite rawness. Philly is sort of the first perfect harnessing of that rawness, where they're now really a lot more comfortable on stage, but they're still an edge. And then that Toronto show, the edge is what they're bringing, and not because they're nervous. And it's just one of those nights where everything's working, the sets, songs. I think, what was my word? I'm giving all of these a word. The word for Toronto, I think, was like something a little more aggressive, if I'm not mistaken. Oh no, it was urgent. Urgent. Yeah, the urgency pays off on that. So anyways, yeah, not the Foreigner song. But yeah, that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, share, comment. Let me know if you've checked out this show and what you think of it. This box set, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, thanks for watching. Peace. Talk to you later.